What is climate, and how is our climate changing? Climate is the average weather for a particular location over a period of time. Typically, this incorporates the temperature and the precipitation for that area. So what is climate change? It's any change over time to a particular climate, whether that's due to natural factors or human activities. The Earth's greenhouse effect is an important element of understanding climate change. The greenhouse effect around the Earth makes conditions on Earth suitable for life. If we didn't have this greenhouse effect, it would be way too cold to live on Earth. So what is it? Gases like carbon dioxide or CO2 are in the atmosphere, and they act like a blanket to retain the sun's radiation and heat to keep us warm. Burning fossil fuels and other carbon sources, carbon dioxide sources, they affect this balance. When we burn too much, when we create too much gas, it creates too much heat. We'll hear about the impact of that in a minute. So this chart shows the greenhouse effect, a visual of how radiation comes from the sun and is partially absorbed, and then some is reflected back. So depending on how well we are in balance in terms of the blanket of the gases in our atmosphere or the greenhouse effect, we can stay at a suitable condition in terms of our temperature, or we can be too high or too low. Currently, we are not absorbing enough of the gases, and our Earth is warming. There are two parts to understand about the ins and outs of these gases, the carbon emissions. Carbon dioxide sources and carbon dioxide sinks. Sources are those processes that add more CO2 to the atmosphere than they absorb. Things like burning fossil fuels or deforestation, or how we produce food through our agricultural systems. In those situations, more CO2 is emitted than absorbed, causing the greenhouse effect to be off balance and for temperatures to rise. Offsetting that are carbon dioxide sinks, and these situations and processes absorb more CO2 than they emit. These would be like the processes that happen in forests, in oceans, and in soils. So these are critical to offset the carbon source emissions that are beyond what can be naturally absorbed. So when we are not in a good place with our forests, with our oceans, or with enough soil, we can't absorb enough, and then again the temperature. How do we measure temperature, and how is it connected to carbon dioxide? We're able to look at historical levels of carbon dioxide concentrations through ice cores, and also looking at volcanic air. And we can see that over time there's been a strong link, connection shown between the CO2 concentrations and the temperature changes we see on Earth. Especially in the last 50 years, we've seen a steep increase in the concentrations and a steep increase in the temperatures, with last year, 2010, being the hottest year on record. This chart shows a visual representation of this connection between carbon dioxide and the temperature on Earth over the last 400,000 years. And you can see that there have been other times when the temperatures and carbon emissions from obviously more natural causes have been in place. But specifically on the right side of the chart, you'll note that we are at the highest temperatures for many, many years, and that the connections between carbon dioxide and temperature are very clear. So what do hotter temperatures mean? Hotter temperatures mean that the air warms and that the ocean temperatures warm. It causes more ice and snow to melt. And in the case of melting glaciers, they increase the sea level, which increases oceanic acidity, and so the balance of the ocean and its ability to be a carbon sink is out of balance. And then we also see a lot of weather patterns that change. Wind and precipitation patterns increase dramatically. We've seen many more hurricanes, droughts, and flooding situations in recent years. So these impacts are currently happening to us. So where do we fit in? In order for us to rebalance our greenhouse effect and the atmosphere, we have to change our lifestyles. We have to conserve energy, we have to consume less, we need to emit less CO2. We need to switch, if all possible, from fossil fuels to clean renewable energy like wind or solar energy. And on a daily basis, we need to be thinking about our food choices, our local food and our low-end packaging food. What kind of packages and what kind of local agricultural processes happen. So thank you for reviewing this slidecast, and now we'll move on with the rest of